Alright, so what you want to do at this point is you want to heat the area around the notch. Just kind of keep rotating it around in the blowtorch. Kind of be mindful of where the blowtorch is pointed, because even though it's a short flame on there, it actually gives off a lot of heat in that direction. So if you're pointed at anything that's important, you might burn it. So obviously be careful. Like I said, you want to get this thing going. You notice the discoloration on here. Sometimes the discoloration is an indicator of heavy metal plating or stuff in there that's just really not good for you. So you really want to make sure that if you're making a bunch of these or even one of them, you want to do it in a well-ventilated area. I've got the garage open for this part of it, so I'm getting a little bit of wind coming through, and that's going to be all I need to get this out of here. I'm also wearing a mask, which again, is just for the sake of, I'd like to do this for a long time, and it's really good to keep yourself safe. It only takes a couple of seconds to put it on. I'm going to turn up the heat a little bit now and get rotating here. This is going to be a bit of a boring part, but you pretty much just wait for this guy to glow nice and red. And when it glows nice and red, you're going to fold it over real fast and hit it with a hammer on the back side. You want to do this on an anvil if you've got it. A lot of vices have a little anvil patch on the back of it. But if you don't have a little anvil patch, and you're like me, and you have a cement bottom to the garage that you're standing in, basically you're standing on a big anvil. So you can fold it over real fast, give it a few quick whacks with the hammer, and that'll go ahead and get it set for you. But again, we're just going to keep rotating this, and keep on moving it through the fire here until we get it nice and red. And I do apologize for the video's sake. It does take a couple minutes to get this thing going. I was going to preheat it a little bit, but it's going to be a pain in the butt then to start filming and that. But again, just keep kind of rolling through. We're starting to glow just a shade here. You want to kind of go, right around the edge of your flame. That's going to be the hottest point. Right where the smaller cone of flame meets the bigger cone. And you kind of work your way through, rotating. Keep it going. And again, what we're going to wind up doing is taking this thing once it gets nice and red, and it's actually starting to glow a little bit now. We're going to take this thing once it gets nice and red, and we're going to move it right down to the ground in my case, just because I've got a couple of things on my vise right now. So I'm going to move it to the ground, bend it over real fast, and go ahead and hammer the back of it. So we're not going to see that part, but once this thing cools off, I'll demonstrate it for you. So again, now we're getting nice and red. You can see that in there. So once it gets nice and red, about 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch on either side of the joint, we're going to go ahead and hit it. Like I said, safety is important. Keep the garage door open, keep a well-ventilated work area, wear some glasses. I've never had these things pop on me before, but it's first time for everything. Wear some glasses, and wear some, wear some breath protection too. Definitely do at least a dust mask or something, so you don't want to be inhaling any of this heavy metal stuff. Alright, so we're nice and good and red. Bar is pliable, you can see I'm bending it right now. So I'm going to bend this and hammer it really quick, and we'll come right back. Okay, so here's what the rod looks like after it's been bent over. Still very, very hot. Definitely can't touch it. And you can kind of see there a little bit, well, probably not too much, but you can see how that piece that we folded over, the part that we sanded off there, or filed off, that's what's given us the clearance to be able to get that rod together. Alright, so I'm going to let this cool, and we'll come back and show you what to do with the ends of it here. Alright, one last thing on the rod that you bent. Resist the urge to dip it in water to help cool it down and speed things up, because what you don't want to do is cool it down too fast. If you heat metal and you cool it down really fast, what you do is harden it. And hardening sounds good, but when you harden stuff, you also make it brittle. So the last thing that you want is to have that rod buried deep inside of the neck, and you've got this tiny little brittle corner that you're working on, this brittle little bend that's taking a lot of force, when you're adjusting that truss rod. So the last thing you want to do is have that thing be brittle, and under the forces and the stress of adjusting the truss rod, having that part break. Because it's going to be very difficult to rescue the truss rod at that point and get a new one in there. So the next thing that you need, like I said, now that's sitting on the side and cooling. I'm just going to let it cool until it's done. We're just at room temperature here. The last thing that you need to do, and again, this is Home Depot or Lowe's, there's this flat steel bar stock. This is 1x36, and it looks to be about 3/16 of an inch thick. So a little bit thicker than an eighth, less than a quarter. But you only need one of these. It's 36 inches long. You'll get about 36 of the little bearing blocks for the end out of this. And what you wind up doing is, I hack off sections, 1-inch sections, and I drill 3 or 4 of these at a time, sometimes 5 or 6, just to have them on hand, so it makes truss rod making in the future, a little bit faster. But I'll take you over and we'll show you how to drill one of these. We'll go over to the workbench here. And again, like I said, while you're doing it, just set up the drill, make 5 or 6 of them if you're going to make a few guitars, and just toss them in a place where you won't forget them. And the next time you make a truss rod, all you have to do is measure it, heat it, bend it, cut it, and put the threads on. Okay, so here's what we're making with that big metal rod. Sawed off with a metal saw, hacksaw, I sawed off about a 1-inch block. I actually have a few of these laying around, and I've already done these. So the basic procedure is that right near the top, about a 1/16 of an inch away from the top, you want to drill a hole a little more than halfway through this thing that's 3/16 of an inch in diameter, the same diameter as the bar stock that you're using. If you're using a different diameter bar stock, drill an according hole for that, but this is going to be for 3/16. So you drill a 3/16 inch diameter hole, not quite all the way through, right around halfway, and that's going to be the stop for the top end of the truss rod. Now the hole that you drill right below it, and again this is just about a 1/16 of an inch gap below it, you want to drill a hole all the way through that's a 1/4 inch hole. And the reason we're doing a 1/4 inch hole for here is you want to have a little bit of room for clearance so that rod can slide in and out no problem. The top one is going to stop it, the bottom is going to allow for rod with the threads on it to come through. Because when we tighten this, what's going to happen is the bottom rod is going to get shorter, which is going to force the top rod into this hole more, which is going to force the entire truss rod to bend back. That's why we have a pull and a push on there that helps it push back, and that's what makes it really strong. So again, the measuring on this, about a 1/16 of an inch from the top, make your very first hole. Directly below it, and the first hole is a 3/16, and it's only about halfway through. The next one below it is a 1/4 inch hole, and it is all the way through. And there's only about a 1/16 of an inch room in the middle of them. Now I leave these big like this, and the reason that I do that is so that way there's a really big bearing surface against the back of here for when I torque this nut down, that it really gets pushed in here well, and there's enough force so that way the rod will bend no problem. On the electric guitar, what I'm going to wind up doing is digging a hole that's the same width as this, and the same length across here, so that way when the rod goes in, it'll actually set almost in a pocket, kind of like this. So that'll keep this guy from moving around, it'll give it a really nice surface to bear against with the force of the truss rod, and it'll give enough clearance that I can put my adjusting nut in there. And I'll put a tiny little cap over that on the guitar so you don't see it, so I'll be hidden under there, but this will be a nice big weight to bear against, and it'll be a really good spot for your nut to push against, so that way you can get a good action out of the truss rod.